One thing I wanted to ask you about specifically, Sheryl, is that I know you do a lot of work with people who have relationship anxiety of different forms. Let's say I have this anxiety about, am I in the right relationship? I have anxiety because I'm jealous that my partner seems XYZ, or I'm insecure in some way. How is connection, if it is, a remedy for relationship anxiety?
Yeah. Well, relationship anxiety in the way that I work with it is specifically the first example that you gave. Am I in the right relationship? What if there's somebody better? Is my partner this or that enough? At the root of relationship anxiety is the fear of loss. If we convince ourselves that our partner is not this or that enough, then we leave. If we believe those thoughts, then we leave. And we have managed to protect ourselves from the risk of loving, right? Loving and being loved to me is the riskiest thing we do emotionally, not necessarily physically, but emotionally. Deeply letting somebody in to our hearts, being that vulnerable, knowing that, again, there is the possibility that we will, at the extreme, lose the person. On the smaller scale, hurt and be hurt. We will hurt each other in a long term relationship. It's an inevitability. I talk a lot about relationship anxiety and the specific ways that it shows up. Is my partner attractive enough? Are they intellectual enough? As projections. So those thoughts are projections of inner places that need our own attention. So, is my partner intellectual enough? If we flip it, if we understand that it's a projection of something inside of us that needs attention, we might then become curious about the value that our family of origin placed on a certain type of academic intellect, our own insecurity about our own intellect. And so it becomes a process of deep inquiry, self reflection, which is connection, which is connecting to our own selves and the places inside that are wounded that are being projected onto the screen of our partner. Of course, relationships themselves are all about connection. And so I talk about it in different spikes: attraction spike, or sexuality spike, or social spike. So if someone is struggling with an attraction spike, is my partner attractive enough? And we break that down. And I understand attraction largely as a function of connection. When we are connected to ourselves, when we are connected to our partner, open heart to open heart, when our partner is connected to themselves, we are seeing through clear eyes instead of fear eyes, and attraction is not a problem. I'm talking about relationship anxiety with the assumption that it's a healthy, well matched relationship, shared values, that there is a foundation of friendship, you like each other. That's always all predicated on that assumption. I'm not talking about where there are true red flags that need attention. That is a good, healthy, well matched relationship. But we get scared in relationship and we see through fear eyes and we disconnect and our hearts close. When we disconnect, our hearts close. So we see through different eyes. When we reconnect to ourselves, to each other, our hearts open back up. We see again through clear eyes and we are attracted in the definition of drawn to the person. It's not like we have to love every single feature about our partner's face. I'm not talking about the Hollywood definition of attraction. I'm talking about true connection. So, of course, if we're in a primary relationship, if we're in a romantic relationship, one of our sources of connection can also be a source of disconnection. And that's sometimes when anxiety shows up, and especially around attachment wounds, because relationships can be very challenging. And a long term relationship, again, inevitably will at some point be very challenging. That's just how it goes.
Now, Sheryl, when I introduced you, I said that part of what spurred your own journey on is when you had a panic attack at the age of 21. And I'm curious, for people who have, whether it's panic or it's extreme anxiety in the moment, if you have an in the moment go to suggestion, here's what you need to do in those kinds of intense situations.
Yeah. Panic is a whole other conversation. It is a wild energy that comes through us. Panic attacks I think are the most terrifying thing we experience without actually being in danger, which is the wild thing about panic attacks. We are actually safe, but we feel like we are either going to die or go crazy. So I do have a little cheat sheet for those moments of panic. It's very specific things like, first of all, naming this is panic and I am safe and it will pass. There's a lot of work around like cross lateral touch, touching your collarbones, even elbow to wrists that can immediately calm the nervous system. All the work that's being done around nervous system regulation can be used in the moment of a panic attack, but you have to first have enough distance from it to know this is panic and it will pass and I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. So those are just a couple of things. Of course, trying to regulate your breath, coming into your breath, coming into your body. I also turn to spiritual sources. I turn to mantras or poetry to integrate, to regulate, to refocus on something bigger than this moment that helps me to come into the deeper place of I am actually deeply safe in this moment. And when I can turn to those mantras or poems or prayers, this is what I do because we tend to leave the building in those moments, right? It's such intense amygdala activation that it's hard to get back online and in that seat. But if we have something that we can turn to, or even a playlist for those moments, the biggest piece about panic that makes it worse is when we fight it. That's what escalates, just like with anxiety, just like with any emotion. When we fight it, it gets a lot louder and it lasts a lot longer. But when we kind of melt and surrender into it, which is so hard to do in those moments, it does pass through.
You named anxiety as a friend in disguise. How, when it comes up for you, are you able to recognize, oh, this is actually a friend in disguise?
Mm. Well, I've been doing this work for so long, both in my own self and with other people, that I recognize anxiety very quickly for what it is, and I'm able to name it very quickly and turn to something bigger pretty immediately. So I had anxiety come in the other night. Our son was on his way to a very far location and traveling alone in the middle of the night. And it was the night before Mother's Day. It was 1 a.m. on Sunday. And I could just feel my anxiety about him going so far away and other feelings and grief coming in, different painful relationships in my life. But the anxiety was first. And I looked out the window and the yard was flooded with moonlight. I think it was a full moon. And the trees were just radiating. And because I have this relationship with this gorgeous apple tree right outside our window, it's one of my mother's. And I could feel it sort of leaning in towards the window. And so to me, that's Mother Tree, there's Mother Moon, and my whole system calmed in that moment. I was able to take in the beauty, the goodness, the connection of I'm not alone in this. We're going to worry about our loved ones. That's just part of being in relationship. And my nervous system calmed. The deeper, bigger relationships came in, and I was able to sleep and I woke up in joy.